Hello and welcome to the Battlefield of Ideas. My name is Chris Pilier from Lanterns of Liberty. Just wanted to touch base with all of you after yesterday's surprising, at least in my eyes, was surprising defeat of Mitt Romney and victory by Barack Obama. A lot of you, at least a lot of you that are fans or supporters of Mitt Romney, I would imagine most of you believed that we would possibly see a landslide, or at least a victory. The signs seem to be there. Not only the signs in the yards, but just in the signs in the economy, the signs in the media, the weariness from the left, the pundits on the right. Everybody seemed to think that Romney had it in the bucket. There was so much out there that gave us evidence that the people were not happy with the current state of the economy, the direction where our country was headed, also the division in the country was not what Barack Obama had promised. You know, just watching Facebook and Twitter, I could see the people that I'm connected with, along with the people that I'm connected with are connected with, in their posts that they were not happy. Whether it was unemployment, whether it was foreign policy, there was a lot out there for the country to see that showed us all that we weren't and not headed in the right direction. So as I watched the election yesterday, actually when I got home from my day at work, and I got all excited to watch the election. I'm a political junkie, if y'all haven't figured that out yet. And got my dinner, hurried up and got all my media equipment on the couch. Opened up my MacBook Pro, had my iPad, iPhones, everything ready to engage people in discussion and debate about how the night was going. And after the first hour or so of the polls coming in, specifically in Florida, I knew something wasn't right. And of course you get these things trickling in about, voter fraud and all these different things, and that kind of just becomes a background noise to the disconnect from what I thought was going to happen and what was actually happening. So obviously there's all this speculation out there and all these things coming across the news about voter fraud, and at some point you have to look at that and say, you know what? It is what it is. You can maybe share it with your friends on Facebook, but overall, there's not a whole lot we can do. We have to trust the system that we have. Raise the questions when they need to be raised. But overall, that wasn't what my focus was on. I knew that we had done what we needed to do, or at least I knew what I needed to do. To push this country in the right direction. I've worked for 5 years, and I say 5 years because prior to the 2008 election, I was heavily involved. And throughout the last 4 years of Barack Obama's presidency, I've been posting on Lanterns of Liberty, posting on Facebook, having good debates, and I've actually learned a lot. And I've learned a lot from my liberal friends. And I say liberal friends because I do have friends on both sides of the spectrum. And I think that it's important to engage with people of the opposite ideology in order to gain perspective and grow as a patriot. So I got a couple questions and I got some information, not nearly the type of information that I have on a normal basis on the show, because I want to make this show tonight about what do we need to do? That's the big question. Everybody seems to be asking the question, We thought we did everything we possibly could. We thought we had a perfect candidate. We thought we had, the history that Obama has laid down as a example of what not to do as a president. We had the energy that Obama obviously didn't have from the perspective that was given to us. So where do we go wrong, and where do we go forward? Are you mad? Are you upset? Are you ready to do what needs to be done? If you're mad and upset, why are you upset? Are you upset and mad because maybe you could have done more? I'm pretty active and I'm a political junkie. I somewhat enjoy engaging with people in debate. So it's maybe a little easier for the common American or common patriot. But I find it as my duty that when I see the country folding under fiscal calamity and unemployment and social division and lies and deceit by our media, by Washington, D.C., by Hollywood, I can't help but get energized by that and take that energy and put it to common good use. And I say common good use because my use, or the use that I practice is talking, debating, battling, and not battling physically, but battling on the field of ideas, explaining my beliefs. So let's just take a real quick perspective of the exit polling. And keep in mind, exit polling, it's a fair amount of information. A lot of the exit polling is really used to determine what the electorate was thinking at the moment that they voted. And it offers a glimpse, and it's somewhat vague information, but it gives you a good perspective on where the country is. So here we go. The auto bailout. 59% of the country approved of the bailout. Now, when I look at the bailout, I understand what took place in the bailout. I studied the bailout for a good bit and then debated the bailout with my liberal friends. And I understand that it was a union payoff. I understand that there was billions of dollars spent to try to prop up General Motors and Chrysler to keep them from folding. And the argument or the debate was a smokescreen from the left. It was about saving jobs. It was about, a company too big to fail. 59% approved of bailing out General Motors with taxpayer funds, regardless of how much money they would lose. For a small portion of the country that had invested interest in employment with General Motors, for the most part, would have kept their employment through normal bankruptcy, when in fact they did go through bankruptcy after they were bailed out. In the bankruptcy terms, or the bailout terms, whichever way you want to look at it, we don't need to get too technical on it, but if you want to look it up on Lanterns of Liberty, I have a post, I believe I posted it last month. It's called it's his record stupid. Kind of tongue in cheek, but if you read it, it'll explain the bailout. 59% approved the bailout. Obama ran on that bailout. So the conservatives had an extremely strong defense of their position, but 59% of the country still did not believe that position. And I find it very hard to believe that they didn't believe that position, but rather weren't offered that position because of left-wing bias in the media. The next one. Who's the blame for the economy the economy and the economic problems we're now seeing. 40% of the country believe that Obama was responsible, while 51% believe it's Bush. When you look at the reason why our economy is in the way it is today, it was because of the housing crisis. A housing crisis that the Republicans fought to prevent during Bush's term. Whether or not they fought very hard is debatable, but there is record of it. You can look it up on YouTube. The bottom line is, and also on Lanterns of Liberty, you can find my reasons. And in fact, I do have a post, a radio show that I did where I started the show off with the housing crisis, and I'll explain it to you from beginning to end. And it's basic mathematics. It's fact. Obama was not responsible for the housing crisis any more than Bush was. So the housing collapse is what caused the bad economy. Okay? 40% of the country believed Obama was responsible, while 51% thought Bush was responsible for the current economy. An economy where 4 years prior, Obama swore that he would get us back to where we needed to be as long as we passed the stimulus plan, where he gave $250 million to a company, actually it was $250 billion, to the green industry. For the most part, went bankrupt. So, and we're now in the same fiscal condition as we were back then, with $1 trillion in debt from that stimulus, or nearly it's like $780 billion is what the stimulus was. The next exit poll data I have is the female vote. 55% of the female electorate voted for Obama. And you ask the question why? Well, because they were concerned about contraception. They were concerned about women's rights to health care. That is what the smokescreen that the Obama administration put out in front of everybody. The conservative position against what Barack Obama and the left were pushing was that no one is trying to take away birth control or contraception from women. No one was trying to take away mammograms. No one was trying to take away the right to abortion. As a president doesn't have the power to take away the right to an abortion. And I'm using the term right to an abortion as something of the left, because that's not an inalienable right. 55% of the female vote went to Barack Obama. 44% went to Mitt Romney. People that thought the impact of the superstorm Sandy, Sandy was important, was 42%, the way that was handled. And 15% of the people that were polled thought it was the most important. 15%. Think about that. Now, I want you to as soon as this is over, I want you to go do some research on the catastrophe that is the recovery from Sandy. The fact that 2 days after Sandy came ashore, FEMA ran out of water. I can understand running out of toilet paper or running out of boxes or mops, sandbags or whatever the hell FEMA has in their arsenal to take care of people. Hell, I can even think of them running out of money. But to run out of water? If there's a list of things that FEMA should have and have an abundance of. It's water is number one. Food number two. How long does it take for a person to die without water? 42% thought that it was important, and 15% thought it was the most important. Another question. Your family's financial situation compared to 4 years ago. 25% of the country, or the electorate, 25% thought it was better. 25%. And Barack Obama is now reelected as president of the United States. 25%. 33% thought it was worse, and 41% thought it was the same. 25% thought it was better. Think about that. Direction of the country. 46% think it's going in the right direction. 52% think it's going in the wrong direction. Who can better handle the economy? Obama, 48%. Romney, 49%. Keep in mind that the most important issue of the election was the economy at 59%. Who do you better think can handle the deficit? Obama, 47%. Romney, 49%. Now, I want you to take and just step back a minute and think about all these numbers. Who is to blame for economic problems? Bush. Obama, still 40%. I would think it'd be much higher. The family's financial situation, 25% think it's better. 33% think it's worse. Direction of the country, right direction, 46%. Wrong direction, 52%. Who can better handle the economy? Romney wins at 49% versus Obama at 48%, when 59% of the electorate think that the economy was the number one issue. Who can better handle the deficit? Obama or Romney? Obama at 47%, Romney at 49%. What does that tell you? Some people on the left will say, that's hogwash. That's skewed. Really? Think about the amount of people that voted for Barack Obama. Barack Obama is the first president, I believe, in United States history that came out with a socialist platform where he strictly ran on class warfare, the rich against the poor, or the rich against the middle class. He didn't talk about American prosperity. He didn't talk about the greatness of America. He talked about how in bad shape we are 4 years after he was elected, and how work still needed to be done, in that he inherited a mess. I've seen it going around. I imagine that he's going to inherit a bigger mess his second term. So with all that being said, it's obvious that there's a large majority, and maybe I shouldn't say majority, a large portion of the electorate that sees the opportunity to get something for nothing. You know, Romney had a gaffe, and I call it a gaffe. It was probably just, it was better said than the way he said it, or he could have said it better. That 47% of the country is not a whole lot he can do about, because they're driven by entitlements. And it came across as he was talking about welfare, when in fact entitlements include Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and it does include food stamps and so forth. But the fact is, there's 47% of the electorate that are on some type of entitlement. in that if you threaten to take that entitlement away for the sake of the nation crumbling under its own debt, or even to reform it, you're an easy target from the left. They use that, that tactic of pillage and destroy when you come out with any type of plan to make something more affordable or to reform something to make it to where it doesn't go broke in 10 years. The minute you decide that you need to touch it in order to fix it, you are now an enemy of the American people. And that's why conservatism is so hard, because we are truly looking out for the fiscal well-being of the country. So what do we do? I've heard some the talk radio guys today talking about, how the pundits say we need to maybe, loosen up a little bit. And that we need to be less principled in order to be able to reach across the aisle and be, bipartisan. Well, I'll ask you, if you're going to try to get the vote of people that want something for nothing, and I am going up against Barack Obama, and he shows that he's going to give away more than what I'm going to give away, what's the point? If we're going to pander to people that want something for nothing. If 60% of the electorate wants something for nothing, that number is not scientific, I'm just throwing it out there. Well, guess what, conservatives? If you stand on your principles, we're not going to get back in office. We've lost the country. So what do we do? And I've been seeing it all day on Facebook, all the people that are pissed off and mad, going on their rants. I've kind of been sitting back and watching because, I felt the same feelings, but just because you feel something doesn't make it right. Just because you feel pissed off doesn't mean you need to go out there and ramble on and sometimes even look foolish. How many thoughts go through your mind every day? Some of them bad, some of them good. You don't act on every feeling and every thought. But yet we look on Facebook and we see people fighting on Facebook about how pissed off they are because Mitt Romney lost and how they don't want to hear politics anymore. Well, I don't think that's a very effective way to get through to people. And if we as conservatives look at the majority of the country voting for a man that says he's going to give things away, and we're trying to get through to that other side and say, hey, no, that's not the way to go. No, you don't want to do that because this, and this. You're not going to capture those people by being negative, by fighting, by coming off the chest with the first thing that comes to mind. Navy SEALs don't just go into a building and start shooting up the place. They are the elite of the world because they're patient. They're calculated. They're divisive. If you're going to be a conservative and be an effective conservative, especially in the world of Facebook and Twitter, or any debating environment or forum, you have to be calculated. You have to be educated. You have to be precise. Because every word that you write wrong, whether it's a misspelling or whether it's a word that's backwards, you will get hell rained on you. Because that's the way the liberals fight. Liberals don't fight fair. They fight to win. And they don't care how they win. They're not principled. I believe liberalism is a mental disorder. Because they don't have any empirical logic behind their belief system. If there is a belief system. I've always said that liberals are liberals first. That's because you can find a Catholic, and if he's liberal, he believes in abortion. He's a liberal first. You'll find Democrats that don't like Barack Obama and actually will side with Mitt Romney on all his issues, but will vote for Barack Obama because they're liberal first. It's a mental disorder. And I know there's probably some liberals listening to this, and they're probably getting all feverish. Get over it. But to conservatives, you can't go into the battlefield of debate or the battlefield of ideas swinging and screaming like a crazy man or crazy woman. You gotta understand what you're doing. And I'm not saying that I didn't start off the way you did. I've done that. But if we're gonna go out and we're going to try to have the honest discussion that we have to have in order to get this country back in the right place, we have to understand what those rules of engagement are. Nope, and I'm not talking about not going in with bullets in your guns like the left wants you to do in Libya. I'm talking about what do you need to do in order to win a debate. This is the battlefield of ideas, guys. We're no longer in a place of Republican and Democrat. We're in a place of an ideological civil war. And if you have any background or you've been around for the last 4 years in the political environment, you know what I'm talking about. This entitlement society is not American. It's Eastern European. It's not Western culture. There's nothing in Western culture that supports being dependent on somebody else. That doesn't exist in Western culture. Western culture was built on individualism. It was built on individual charity and innovation. It was built on so much more than what the left has to offer. And the left gets away with it because they hang the carrot out there. And they pander to every single group and tell them that they're going to give them the sun, stars, and the moon. That's what they're getting them for. But you need to be able to go to those people. And I'm not talking about the drones. Levin calls them the drones. And it's a very good explanation for what they are because they're operated by the left. They're useful idiots is what Lenin called them. And simply carpet bomb the conservative ideas with their liberal talking points. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about the people that think Barack Obama's a nice guy and that they somewhat lean to Obama because they're just caught in that web. You can get to some of those people. But you got to have the right things to say. And I'm not talking about talking points because talking points is if I'm going to program you with something and you go to battle. You have to know what it is that you're going to go talk about. So what do? Well, the first thing you got to do is you got to educate yourself. I went through a long period of time reading book after book after book. I actually wanted to purchase all my books because I wanted to be able to reference them in debate. Facebook is a great place to debate because you can calculate. Somebody posts something, you can think about it. You can go research it. But you need to educate yourself. Second, you need to educate others. I do that through debate. I often have liberals on my page that I debate, and people are watching. People always say, "Why do you want to argue with that guy all the time? You're never going to turn him around." It's like I don't debate him for trying to change him. I debate for all the 50 other people watching the debate. Sometimes I even get people in there cheerleading, which is not always helpful, but it makes me feel somewhat. It makes me feel good. But that's not what it's about. What it's about is I'm on the battlefield of ideas expressing my principles. and I'm doing it well. Why? Because I'm educated. Because I've read about the issues. I don't go into battle with half facts. I go in with all the facts. I don't throw them out all on the table. I go in there in a calculated way. If I see that and I say he, if the liberal is a guy and he comes across and he says something that I don't agree with or believe, then I go and I engage. If a woman posts something on there, I go in there and engage. And when I do it nice, kind, honorable. I don't go in there and call him an idiot. It doesn't get me anywhere. It doesn't matter how right I am. If I call him an idiot and everybody around me says, man, he's kind of an ass. That doesn't permeate into those people's mind of my ideas or what I believe. And I say my ideas, they're not my ideas. These are principles that have been laid around through nature. I've simply decided to recognize them and discuss them in an open forum. Individualism is natural. And explaining and expressing individualism is what conservatism is all about. So debating liberals is my third point. The first was educating myself. The second was educating others, whether it's through forum or it's conversation. The third is debating liberals. Because there's a chance I could turn the liberal into a conservative. But I really want other people to see the good idea. I want to see other people see that I'm engaged. There's a lot of people out there that really want to say what I say because they feel the same way. They understand the nature of individualism. They believe what I believe. In many cases, they're too afraid to say it. But after I've said it, they got their confidence up because they say, hey, that guy's good. I'm not good because I have this, strong intellectual, transcendence from Harvard. I simply have an open mind. I've educated myself. I've invested in my knowledge. Read a lot of books. And I would challenge you all to do the same. Read. You got to read. I know it sucks. I know when I first started, I hated it. The first book I picked up was The 5,000-Year Leap by Leon Scouzin. And when I read that book, it was hard for the first 20 or 30 pages. And then it just kind of clicked. Then it made sense. Then I felt enlightened. I went and picked up another book. I think the second book I read was The Real George Washington. I read that book. I read The Real Thomas Jefferson, The Real Benjamin Franklin. Then at that point, it was a thirst. Because there was so much that I learned that I didn't know. That things that I had heard about these men were incorrect. These weren't statues. These were men. These were guys that were like me. I could relate. By all means, I'm not comparing myself to George Washington. There was no better man that ever walked on the shores of the United States than George Washington. But I could relate. I could see that, what he went through and kind of feel the same, troubles. Granted, his fight was with muskets and cannons. Mine was with words and ideas, many of which I've learned from him. But really it all boils down to just educating myself. Then I started getting into, when I got out of those books and learned about my founders, obviously I read the Constitution and Declaration of Independence. Then I started digging into a little, esoteric stuff. I started reading philosophy, The Law by Bastiat. I started listening to Milton Friedman Thomas Sowell. Milton Friedman, I went through a stage with Milton Friedman where, I mean, it was really intoxicating almost. I mean, every time I listened to him, it was revelation after revelation. Not because he was a super brain, it was simply because he recognized it. He recognized the nature of man. And not man separated from, in different ways, like the black man or the white man or politicians and citizens, or politicians and just the general public. He looked at everybody as man, with all of us having the desires and self-interests that propel us and make us do what we do, and that people in power act no differently than people out of power. They act in self-interest. They're individuals. And the more people that we give power with those self-interests, the more corrupt our systems becomes. That was his argument for small government. Milton Friedman. Look him up and listen to him over and over and over again. Thomas Sowell, an African-American hero, in my opinion. There's nobody, in my opinion, American history, or I shouldn't say American history, but in modern American history, that can articulate with passion conservatism the way he did. Reagan was great, don't get me wrong. But Sowell, God bless him, he's up in age now, but he just oozes brilliance. You got to educate yourself on not only history, but principle. There's so many times that I watch on Facebook people get in debates, and they try to bring in Hitler into the debate, or Stalin into the debate, or Lenin, or Mao. And they throw them out there like a dice and expect that people are just going to take that and oh, okay. Oh, yeah, you compare me to Mao. Yeah. Or you're comparing the guy I voted to Hitler. People, if you're going to bring up Hitler and Stalin, which I would recommend that you not, but if you're going to do it, you need to do it in a tactful way. There's no comparison to the evil that was expressed by Hitler than what we see in America today. And I say expressed because I'm talking about it being exercised. The mass killings of Jews and Christians and others. There is no one in this country that has done that. And there is everyone in this country that has the capability to do it. Every single one of it, me included, have the ability to do what Hitler did, given the power and the mindset. So don't fool yourself, and don't try to fool others into buying the Hitler argument, or the Stalin argument, or the Lenin argument. If you're going to talk about Lenin and Stalin, you have to preface that you're talking about the ideology of people like Lenin, Mao, Stalin, Hitler. And you have to completely clarify that you're in no way comparing the atrocities connected to Hitler or Stalin or Mao to people like Barack Obama or other people in office. It is extremely hard to bring up Hitler or Stalin in an argument, even with the most educated people, and get away with it. And I say get away with it because there's other ways to articulate statism, communism, fascism, without even having to bring those guys up. In fact, I can make the full-blown argument that Barack Obama is a fascist or a communist. Just as the left tries to say that he is in favor of free enterprise. I could blow that out the water. But the point is that bringing up Hitler and Stalin doesn't doesn't help things. So make sure that if you're going to bring up these people that you have a full knowledge of their history. And I'm not talking about just, the fact that, Stalin killed a bunch of people and it's because he was a communist. I'm talking about what is behind the ideology of a communist. What is communism? What is fascism? What's the purpose? What drives a fascist? What drives communism to fascism? What are these things defined? Understand them. So that way when you get in a conversation with somebody, you don't sound foolish. It is extremely hard to bring up fascism and communism in a conversation. And I've made the mistake many times. Trust me. At a radio show where we talked about communism. I was very well educated at the time, but nobody was prepared to hear it. Now all you see is everybody talking about Barack Obama being a communist, which is a stupid thing to say, even if it's true. Because it doesn't get you where you need to go. You need to explain why his policies are wrong, and then let the person that you're telling that to say, that kind of sounds like communism. Ah, really? Another thing that you don't want to do is go into a debate unprepared. You need to know the facts. If you're going to debate Benghazi, understand the facts. There's a lot of facts to understand about Benghazi. It's an extremely hard debate. I've actually been having a very fun one with a buddy of mine, liberal. Of course, he hates me for calling him a liberal, but he's a liberal. Love you, Chris, if you're listening. But he and I have been going back and forth, and both of us has kind of stumbled over some of the facts. Because debating foreign policy is extremely hard because you got to know what's going on the ground. And when you're debating real time, things change. This thing has been drawn out for so long, which I believe purposely. He believes that it was just a proper investigation. I believe that it was for politics, which I can prove that. But all these facts that were coming out, it was very hard to stay on path of being right in the debate. But you got to research what you're going to debate, even if you're late to the show. If you're a day or two late debating the issue's not going anywhere. And in fact, most people don't hear about it till a day or two later anyway. But make sure you got the facts. Don't go in there unprepared. Also, don't post links that are something that you haven't read. And don't use headlines as an indictment on somebody or somebody's argument without reading the article. I've done that before. Not recently, because I've learned that lesson a long time ago. Read what you're going to give them. And if somebody gives you a link to read, to back up their opinion or point, read it. Understand it. Understand their point so you can put them in their place if you are right. If you're wrong, say you're wrong. There's nobody that will respect that more. Before you say you're wrong, because liberals for the most part won't. If before you say you're wrong, make sure you're wrong. It is a fight. It's a battle. It's a spirited battle. It's a battlefield of ideas. That's what we need. We need a battlefield of ideas. My whole show, my whole purpose in the political realm is to express my ideas on the battlefield. That's what it's about. It's about getting out there and grappling with people with opposite opinions. Or drilling down to the truth with people that you do agree with. Or correcting people or allowing them to correct you that you agree with for the most part. If somebody posts something that's false, correct them. Do it in a way that's positive to the cause. Maybe it's in a private post. But encourage truth, not winning. Winning will come with truth. But you got to go out and find it. You got to dig for it. If you're going to debate the economy, understand the economy. If you're going to debate the stock market, understand the stock market. The stock market went down 300 points today. Everybody out on Facebook was saying, "Oh, it's because of Obama." Well, it probably was a little bit. But when presidents get elected, especially when the opponent was supposed to win in the eyes of the media and the polls, people make shifts in the market. Is it an indictment on Obama? Possibly. But how many of you out there have traded in the stock market? How many of you understand the indices and what makes them up? How many of you know what companies are in the Dow Industrial? I don't know what all the companies are in the Dow Industrial, and I used to be a stockbroker. But understand what you're going to debate. If you're going to debate the unemployment rate, understand the unemployment rate. If you're going to talk about food stamps, understand where those numbers come from. If you hear a number, don't take it for granted. Go find out where it came from and research it, because somebody's going to call you to it. Oh, where'd you get that? If you have a point to make your point, but have a link to back you up. It's the battlefield. You have to have arrows in hand, ready to fire when somebody comes to you with something like that. Basic point. Now, some of you listening, you may say, "Wow, I don't get in all of that. I don't need to do all of that." Well, that's fine. But if you're upset with the election, and you're upset the way that the country's going, then you need to do something about it, even if it's in a small way. Even if it's in just a simple monetary contribution to a group that actually stands for something. But I would implore you all to not turn away from debate. This is no time to say we can't talk about religion and politics, and for this particular conversation, politics in general. If you have something that you believe in, stand up for what you believe in. Don't let lies go untouched. Don't let things be said without them being corrected if they're wrong. Don't come out guns blazing in a way that's going to hurt the message that you're trying to deliver. That's important. You can't come out guns blazing. I was amazed today. All the patriots that were so, upset today. I was just amazed, and they'd never been like that before, but they were obviously very upset. I was very upset. But they came out and were saying some of the silliest things. And I know they were just mad, and they're going to come back, and they'll be back on their feet again. But this country has been going in this direction for 100 years. Progressivism has been around for a century. It isn't going away anytime soon. It has infected our school system. I wrote an entire book on progressivism, the progression of secular socialism. That's all progressivism is. It's a slow movement of socialism. If you look on Amazon, you can find it. The Progression of Secular Socialism. The book is called The Machine. It explains how socialists came from Eastern Europe when the Nazis took over and came to this country and slowly but surely started injecting their poison into the country. And now we have what we have. We have a country now that over 50% want entitlements. They're not in favor of individualism. A lot of people in this country are morally corrupt because of things put into place that just strip down the morals. What is the debate about gay marriage? Why is it that we have to say you're gay and you can't get married and still be a conservative? Or, I said that wrong. Why is it that I would say that you're gay and you can be married or have a commitment with somebody and not be a conservative? How can you How can you say that you're for freedom but don't want to allow someone to do something freely? I know some of you are probably listening kind of in somewhat of shock that I would be in favor of gay marriage. I'm in, fully supportive of anybody that wants to love someone else. And what they do in their bedroom is their business. Because I don't want somebody in my bedroom telling me what I can and can't do. I don't want somebody telling me what kind of food I can eat, what kind of car I can drive. What's the difference between that and who I can love? But then we have an issue about unions, civil unions. Well, why do we want government in our marriages in the first place? Isn't that the problem? Isn't the problem with marriage in the United States that people get married when they're not ready? Why do they get married? Well, because there's so many damn incentives out there for people financially to get married because the government has thought that, well, it would be good for people to get married, so let's give them all these incentives. So people get married because they can get insurance. They get married because they get tax breaks. They get married for all these things that we can give them anyway if we can just fix the damn tax code. And if John and James want to get married, they can go and do it on their own. They don't need the government. We don't have to involve that in our politics. But you bring that up to a liberal and they'll get mad. Why? Because it's not about the civil union between a man or a woman and a woman. It's about the fact that it's not damn fair that Mr. and Mrs. have been married and have got all the benefits all these years, and it's just not fair. And you're just going to have to suck it up and allow a man and a man to get married and a woman to get married so they can achieve those same benefits, tax breaks or whatever. What kind of damn argument is that? It's a smokescreen, people. Liberals, for the most part, maybe it's not liberals, but progressives for the most part, they don't give a crap about man and a man marrying. They simply want to use it as political currency. It's like immigration. They talk about how bad it is for immigrants here in the country. Oh, the immigrants are just, they're just getting abused. Oh, it's terrible. Immigrants are just, they're being mistreated. Really? Well, why the hell are they coming here? If immigrants are being treated so poorly, why are they coming here? Makes no damn sense, does it? That's simple debate. Why? Because the liberal argument, if you understand what liberals and progressives want, they want control. They want power. Healthcare isn't about more healthcare. Regulations don't create more of anything. Regulations create less of whatever that's being regulated. If you regulate a river, do you get more of it? No. You get less of it. If you regulate the economy, do you get more economy? Nope. You get less of it. You regulate big business, do you get more big business? No. You get less big business. Some regulations are good. I'm not going to go out there and say that all regulations are bad. I'm just simply making a point. So if you want to regulate marriage, you get quality relationships? No. Because relationships are not about law in the eyes of man. Marriage is it's a partnership between two people. That partnership, whether or not is accepted by God, that's something that takes place between the person and God. Who are we to decide whether or not a man can make a commitment to another man? And quite honestly, is it going to stop them? I don't believe we live in a time where they execute people for being gay. People are going to do it anyway, people. If you don't like it, you don't have to like it. Because just as you don't like it, they don't like what you do. But do you want them telling you what to do? So how can you go to the gay community and talk about conservatism when you don't want to allow them to have the right to have a relationship? come up with solutions. The solutions to gay marriage are not in government. If you're a conservative, a true conservative, your principles tell you that government is not the answer. Provide solutions that can work for both of you. If someone wants to smoke weed, who am I to tell them that they can't smoke weed? I better be a good parent to make sure my son doesn't smoke weed. But does making weed illegal get rid of it? No. When you regulate weed, do you get less of it? Yeah. Does it make it a better situation? Absolutely not, because people are still going to do it, and they're going to do it illegally. So do we want to regulate it? No, because government's not the answer. Colorado just legalized weed, or the use of recreational marijuana. Of course, it's still got to go through a lot of hurdles because of the fact that it's still up against federal law. But why do we have a federal law against that? If Colorado wants to have a bunch of potheads living in their state, why not let them? Hell, they may allow those people to smoke weed, and it may turn out to be the best thing that ever happened to the country. But how will we ever know unless they try it? Is it a gateway drug? Sure. So is candy bars. I eat a candy bar, man. I want another one. But I have self-control. It makes me not go get the second one. And if we can't have self-control, we can't have individualism. We can't have America. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that it's all about the battlefield of ideas. And the ideas that you deliver to the public are relevant not only for the ideas themselves, but the way that you deliver them. You got to be calculated. You have to share your message in a way that isn't going to turn people off. Ask questions. Inquire. Try to get into the mind of the liberal to see why they think the way they do. Maybe they think the way they do because they had something happen in their past and they're upset about it. And then you can talk them through it, and then, sometimes you got to do that. Sometimes you got to hold their hand through it. Do you bludgeon them? Bludgeoning doesn't work. Sometimes you get a stubborn one, and it feels good to bludgeon the hell out of them with a fact. But it often doesn't get you anywhere. You might get some cheers from people that are on your side, but it's not what it's about. It really, truly is about seeing common ground. And common ground means you stand up for your principles and you come up with a solution that includes your principles. If the solution is empirical, if it's got background to support something that will truly work, there's evidence of it that it will work, and the liberal doesn't want to bite on it, he's liberal. He's going to be liberal before he's going to go with it. And there's nothing you can do about that. But keep in mind, there's other people watching. So, I'm going to go ahead and take a break. Appreciate y'all listening. Make sure that you visit lanternsofliberty.us. Also, go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/Lanterns of Liberty. You can also follow us on Twitter at Paul Revere again. And make sure you join on Facebook. We got a lot of things going on there. Some great things happening in the near term. And we got a long way to go. We got a lot of fighting to do this next 4 years. And we're going to need every bit of help we can get. And if you want to engage in a debate with me about whether it's something that you agree with or do not agree with, by all means hit me up, because I'm always up for a good debate.